Lights, camera, action!
All right, I'm just gonna go ahead and spoil it for y'all. I failed Sober October. This quick, this short of a time into it, I failed Sober October. And to be very honest, I have no fucking regrets.
What's up, YouTube? Subscribe to my channel.
Yeah, y'all. Sober October, I failed. But, I had a good reason. Hear me out. Yesterday, I had the distinct pleasure of attending the premiere of an independent feature film titled People Passing. It's written and directed by my buddy Doug Larlam and starring my buddy Matt McNelly. I've been talking to Doug and Matt about this film for, I don't know, probably about a year now, but they've been working on it for far longer than that. And, you know, the thing about this movie is that it was an absolute labor of love. Like, I know how much of themselves they poured into this film. So when we were talking about it, whenever, you know, I would talk to them about it, I was just super excited. Like, I couldn't wait. So when I got the invite, I was just like, yes, it's about to go down. And, you know, the thing about it, you know, this isn't like some massively budgeted film or anything like that. You know, I think we could consider People Passing to be like a micro budget film. But I'm gonna tell y'all, even on like a micro budget, what they were able to pull off was just super impressive. I was impressed. So just to tell you what the film's about, when a popular comedian and his girlfriend are killed in a car accident, the bar/comedy club he made famous holds a wake for them on Christmas Eve. Everyone who shows up, bar regulars, the comedian's family, brings their own drama. And by the end of the night, everything boils over. Now, I know like Doug's and Matt's sense of humor. So I was expecting, you know, the movie to be funny, which it is. I think it's tremendously funny. But what I wasn't expecting it to be like as touching as it is. Like, it's heartfelt. It tugs at the heartstrings. Like, I honestly wasn't ready for it to hit me as hard as it did emotionally. You know, it's a film set at Christmas time, so it definitely it had that effect. The screening was held at Cine Lounge in Hollywood. The film itself was shot in Hollywood, primarily at my favorite bar, my home bar. You know, and watching the film and you know, seeing who's in it, who helped out, who participated, it just goes to show how resourceful and imaginative Doug and Matt were in creating it and bringing this to life. You know, like, it featured music from some of our friends. You know, shout out to Brandon McCullough, shout out to Faith. As a matter of fact, if you watched the concert film that I put together earlier this summer, some of the people who are part of that were part of People Passing. So again, shout out to Brandon, shout out to Faith. And shout out to the Elbow Room. The Elbow Room is the bar. I've shouted them out before. I've kind of resisted saying their name on this channel simply because I don't need folks popping up at the Elbow Room looking for me. Yes, that has happened. But yeah, that's where the film was shot. And that's essentially like where the film is set. And I just think that's super cool. So shout out to Elbow Room. Shout out to Lee, who's the owner of Elbow Room. And shout out to Cad. My man Cad, he's the one that runs Cine Lounge. And as a matter of fact, Cad moderated a Q&A with Doug and Matt after the film. Here you go.
So the movie filled me with this funny, warm feeling that I haven't felt since I hugged my first grade teacher a little too long. Is that the Christmas spirit? So, but seriously, why a Christmas movie?
I've always liked Christmas. I think it adds drama. I like when I'm a huge fan of there not being a villain, but like time being the villain, you know, like don't waste this opportunity being the villain. So when I wrote it, you know, Christmas just adds a sense of today's the day to do it. So when you make a movie about do it by the end of today, it's like, well, it's Christmas. And then the unfortunate business decision is that one, you hear Christmas movies sell, and if you don't want to pay for Christmas music, most of the music is public domain. So, you know, you gotta pay for the music, so write it at Christmas.
Or you ask your friends to do the music of the movie.
Do we have any questions from the audience? Whatever you feel, ask them anything.
How long did it take to write this script?
There are so many different iterations of it. I wrote it in 3 months, 8 years ago, and it was just a house party. And then I was working at a restaurant, and the house I was going to shoot in fell through. So I was working at a restaurant. I said, "Can I shoot here?" And then I had to turn it into a restaurant. Then I was working at another restaurant. And we couldn't shoot it, so I had to shoot it like a documentary because we had to shoot really quickly. So I wrote it as a documentary. So it's depending on what iteration you're talking about, it was 3 months and then a month of rewrites and then a month of rewrites. And then, but I mean, it was 6 years from the first time I wrote it to when we actually started shooting.
The script is much older than half the restaurants on Kauai.
Yeah. That's so true.
For people that know that blog and we're listening to the background noises in the scenes, you can hear birds chirping.
Yeah.
Which is a very clear indicator of the fact that you guys were filming very early in the morning. So what was the shooting like? Well, how long did it take? When were you doing it? Because obviously that's a very popular bar that people like going to.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Lee Walker, who we should just give a shout out to. I think we were either pitching this around or he came to us, but basically we were looking to shoot, and he said you could shoot in this bar, but it has to be before football season. I believe he came to me in late July. So if you don't know when football season starts, it's early September. So we were like, oh shit, let's go. So
We had
and he
to
said
cast.
also,
We had
yeah,
to rewrite the whole
so
script.
rewrites
We
cast.
had to get props. We had to get rehearsals in.
Also, but I mean that was all Doug's problem, and then the big problem for me what about my shifts at work? No, so we had a bunch of crap going on, and he said you could shoot, you could come in as soon as the bar closes, which our room closes at 2 a.m. every night. Takes about an hour to kick half you idiots out and clean the place. And then he was like, you could shoot from basically 3 a.m. until 2 p.m. when they had to open the next day. So that was our shooting schedule aside from Fridays and Saturdays, which are their busiest nights when it takes about until 4 to get everybody out of the bar. So we took those off mostly. And so, yes, indeed, we were shooting, so those of you in the film business, we were shooting the mornings as kind of the evenings, and darkness was our first shots of the day usually. But also, if you watch eagle-eyed viewers would notice, some of these we just had to get the shot. We got it, so it's kind of daylight. That parts when it shouldn't. We had a guy do color, and that was nice from trying. But it was a labor of love. But yeah, so that was the big burden of it.
And he wouldn't give us a key for obvious reasons. So that means not only could we shoot from that time to that time, we had to shoot from that time to that time. Because if everyone left at 9 a.m. for the day, I would have to sit there until 2 p.m. in an empty room waiting for them to come open up because I couldn't leave the place. So we were like, no, we're cramming everything. So when I said we shot 17 pages a day, that's what else are we going to do, And also, they became one takes just because we had to shoot so many pages every day because we had to be done by September 3rd that year.
In that same vein, I know a lot of challenges arose with the time schedule and shooting and having to shoot 70 pages a day. But I also, in my experience, sometimes creativity can blossom in a really high pressure environment. So did things come up in this environment that were a positive situation for you that you wouldn't have maybe realized without this kind of situation?
Yes, I wouldn't necessarily say oh, there's that one moment you'll remember, but when we had to go to the next shot and everybody knew every shot was so important and so long that we couldn't cut around, everyone really brought their A game. Whereas when you think you have all night to shoot something, sometimes people are just not on, and we had reruns at every scene basically because they were so long. We had to set up, make sure everybody was rehearsed, let's block it out sort of on the fly and yada yada. I would say that the magic that I noticed was every time I thought we weren't going to get the shot because it was this is literally our last one, that was the one that got it. My favorite example of that by far is we didn't time out. It was just on the script. So I had sex with a stripper scene. So that was just, I told them outside what they have to do and then just come in when you're done doing that. And he's just reading and no one's cueing any of them. And he's saying, and that's when I found out the man my wife was fucking on the side had chlamydia as Chad's walking in. And it was just on the page, okay, so if he says this, then in the background this is happening. And then he says this, and in the background this is happening. And they just acted blind to what was going on inside. And the first two were like close. And is Chad still here? Hey Chad, you might remember the shadow encroaching in that. It was coming because the sun was coming up over the building. So the shadow was getting closer and closer to the building. So we only had one more because you would have been standing in direct sunlight at that point because the sun was moving so quickly as suns do. And it was like basically he started close to the road and like, okay, let's try it again. And the next one he had to like step this much further into the shadow to do the next scene. And then it was like, okay, let's get one more. And he's like right here. And it was like any more, he's just going to be up against the building trying to stay out of it. So it was like, we got to get it on this one. And I think I said something like, take a little longer, or if we could speed up a little more or something. And you blindly came in on the last take as he's saying, and that's how it could not have worked better. And I feel like that happened a lot, but that scene's by far the one I watch and I go, I can't do that. And I said that so many times, but that scene is such a perfect example of way too many moving parts and not enough people to make sure it goes well, but it just did.
Doug, why didn't you want to be pictured in the movie?
Oh,
I am.
he is.
My voice at the beginning doing the radio, and someone had to do the radio, so I couldn't be in my own movie. No, we did do a dumb little
We had a Tarantino cameo for him.
I came in at the end after the credits. I was going to do it. I would try to walk in, and they all say like, "Get out!" and stuff like that, and I go proportional response, just as a tag to everything, and then I leave. But in the end, I was like, "No thanks." But also, we.
But for your brain, you're like happier, like just seeing the whole thing.
Again, the 17 pages a day. If I had to also learn lines, if I had to it was the only reason I ever acted my stuff is respect to the people who ended up proving me wrong. I had worked with too many people who I didn't trust to do my writing because my writing is hard, fast writing. So some people are really good at that, and some people you have to like take one from each project. Like that person really gets it, that person really gets it. By the time we got to this project, I had a bunch of people who really got it, so I trusted them to do it. And then I worked with a few people for the first time, but I couldn't fill that role, like Lisa, the mom character.
Oh yeah.
This was her second role she ever did. She was in one short film. She's 55, doesn't really know if she like wants to act, and I had no idea what to expect. I had never worked with her before, and she showed up and just blew my fucking mind. Most of my characters, they could be men, they could be women, they could be any color, but once I knew who was going to play her son and who was going to be the comic, and I couldn't just be like the other brother, or I couldn't possibly get into that relationship. So I had to find someone to do that, and basically I could take any other role if it mostly makes sense, because I don't really care who, as long as they can do the writing. But I would much rather not. I don't think I cut a scene, and the reason I couldn't cut any specific scene is because there's so much intermingling with all of the characters. Everything everybody says to each other plays earlier and later in the movie off of that thing. So I could never really get rid of a whole scene because it's never just about that. It's about them talking about the thing that's going to come up later, and every payoff comes up in every scene. So specific to scenes I couldn't get rid of, but that was completely
too good.
Too good. My darlings were not to be killed. Yeah, but a random story about a guy talking to God, I was like, that is completely useless. Just it's funny.
Matt, the camera loves your face. The camera loves you, man. That's not a question.
Very kind. Thank you.
It is true, man. You're a star.
I will say, as a testament to your writing, I think that every single actress on screen had a moment where the joke landed, or they really were able to have the crowd kind of immerse themselves in the moment. And I think that's a testament to the writing and the directing. So, and also the acting, to all the amazing actors going.
My writing, when it's in my head, is very precious to me because I see it going a certain way. And people did, in many respects, create characters that I not just didn't think about, but up until I saw it on the day, didn't want, because that's how precious I was about it, and I shouldn't have been. But also, we were moving so quickly. I was like, every curveball you throw me is just gonna drive me crazy because I can't have a chance to sit and make a good decision on it. People did those throughout that I was like, mostly I was like, I don't want that. But if it keeps you happy and I can pay you what I'm paying you, then let's move on.
Doug and Matt will be making
Sweet,
their way to
yeah.
elbow room.
Yeah, we're gonna head up to the location. Work on this thing
And after the Q&A, everyone was just like, yeah, we're headed to elbow room. So even though I told everybody that I was doing Sober October, they were just like, Jay, you need to come to elbow room. Are you going to come to elbow room? They're just like, Sober October is not a real thing. How is there going to be a Sober October when this is like the entire month is a holiday for German people to drink? And, Sober October is not a thing. Don't try to make it a thing just because it rhymes. Stop trying to make fetch happen, Gretchen. Like, they were letting me have it. They were frying me. They were just like, fuck all that Sober October. Come to the bar and celebrate. Peer pressure, man. Peer pressure. And plus, I wanted to celebrate my people. So, yeah. I went to the bar and had several drinks. Fortunately, it was late-ish, so it wasn't like I was just sitting there drinking all day. Only had a couple. Strong couple. And the thing was, I had been good. Like, during the screening, everybody else was like drinking beer and wine, and I had my bottle of water. Yeah. So that's how I felt Sober October. But as I said, for good reason. My boys, I wanted to check out the film and I wanted to celebrate them. And I'm super, super proud of them. Because like I said, I think the film is great. Making any kind of movie is a miracle. And I think 1,000 times more when it's something done outside of like the studio system or without like all of the funds and resources that a so-called bigger filmmaker might have or might have access to. Like, I really do think that People Passing is a miracle and I enjoyed it. And I also want to say that like seeing what they pulled off is very inspirational. And it just reminded me to stop focusing on what I don't have and what I can't do, and to focus on what I do have and what I can do. Like, just get out there and make something. All right, so that's it. Yeah. Failed Sober October, but I did so to support and celebrate good friends, good art. Not ashamed, I'd do it again. Don't know what's going to happen with People Passing, but if it ever comes to like a streamer or is released in theaters or, whatever, I would recommend it. I would suggest checking it out. All right, friends, that's it for this one. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.